Well, in Holland, we do have some legislation about cybersecurity, and a lot of, well, everyone actually has to comply to a lot of what we call privacy rules, which are basically data protection rules. And those are enforced by the GDPR, which are European laws. I do believe that that helps a lot, actually. Although that's not limited to Holland. In Holland, though, we have for our government organizations and organizations related to the government, we do have the BO, which is a baseline information overheit. It means that it provides like a baseline of security measures that need to be implemented in the organization, and they're based on the big standards by ISO 27001 and 2. Basically, it is it's just a couple of measurements and well, things you can do as an organization to become more secure. So so that helps really a lot when it comes to well, they actually have to comply to those rules. Although if they don't comply, there is not like an enforcement body to be able to find them or to actually well, press charges against them or something. No, that it's just like they have to comply to the law, and if they're not complicit to the law. But well, it's not that that they can expect like a big fine. That's not the case when it comes to data of like customers or patients or civilians that they provide services to. Because if that happens and data is breached or not handled properly and according to the law and to the ruling, that means that they actually can be fined. And in the Netherlands, we do have the AP, which is Autoriteit Persoonsgegevens. Well, they actually fine a lot of companies, and that gives a lot of motivation for a lot of organizations to actually work on their cybersecurity and as well as their privacy within the company.
Thank you, Arno, for that look into legislation when it comes to cybersecurity in Holland. So, Mats and Robert, what are your thoughts? We already started talking about sort of legislation nationally, but also globally within EU. What works and what doesn't? What has to be done?
I think we have a lot of legislation already, right? But it needs to be updated so that it actually stays current. We can't enforce laws that will last for 30 years and not change them. So we need to be more fast-paced and more agile when it comes to laws and rules and regulations.
And do you think that's possible? Because traditionally we've had, longer periods of time. Yeah.
I think so, but it also requires more education of the parties that actually draft the laws so that they actually understand as subject matter experts what they are now talking about. Because otherwise the laws can actually be very counterproductive. Like we've seen with the GDPR and the sanction fees, for instance, where it actually has not driven up the number of incident reports that are public, but rather the other way around. People are scared of it. So scared that actually threat actors threaten you with, we will disclose that we hacked you if you don't pay us. And it's a problematic situation.
So they're actually scared from a branding point of view or sort of reputation point of view.
Economical as well, since the fees and the sanction fees are so high. So I think there's a better way to actually do this with laws and regulations, more supportive than punishing, if we so to speak, where we actually help out the local industries in actually achieving higher cybersecurity, rather more carrot than stick, so to speak.
Yeah.
And there is a huge factor here which actually talk against about a Swedish legislation as such. If we have to backtrack like to the 40s and the 50s in Sweden, we had a legal system where actually the legislator made a law that prohibits something and the Swedish people abide. We are living in an era where you don't have that direct communication and compliance for the governments because you have these sub-laws and communities online that creates their own laws. So the legislator today doesn't have that ease of access to make a law that prohibits something. So I don't believe that that is the way to go. But you need to have something to comply to that is sort of globally sort of accepted by all parties. And this is the next challenge. How do you make China or Russia or whatever state there is to actually comply to what we want to do, to actually go after the perpetrator or the bad guys, because what is a bad guy here might be a hero over there. So that is a whole different problem at a Swedish law or a European law or a global law.
So it's a much more complex ecosystem nowadays.
Yeah,
We need to find a way forward, I believe. I firmly believe we need to have a set of rules or a sort of code of conduct that really everybody complies to.
And I mean, we have the different ways of actually practicing law as well across the world. So it also makes it even harder. But then we come back to the whole national legislation and central legislation like the EU and in the United States. I mean, we sometimes forget that there's a lot of states in the United States who will have their separate laws as well. So this is, I think, the whole code of conduct, something to strive towards, to achieve. That's a much better phrasing than you are not allowed to do this or that, or you have to do this or that, otherwise you will have the stick. I think it's a mindset. It's a cultural thing, it's a mindset, but then again, we're coming back to education. People need to understand what the laws actually entail and what the consequences will be. Because sometimes we see that implementing laws actually have a very different effect than what we thought they would have.
And this is very important because we believe, I know that we are coherent on this one, there are already laws against the crimes, so we don't need new ones. But we maybe need laws that actually enforce you to raise awareness, how to have professionals with proper education and proper specialty, like a subject matter expert, that actually helps the society to raise awareness in this matter, so that the fright of technology or awareness around cybersecurity isn't a daunting task, or it's a very ease of access.